What's up? It's good to see you. And Patrick. We have an awesome event for you tonight, and the speakers are currently here in the chat. You could see Amal over there and Falcon from PlayNitride. So and Ted Brown's also here. It should be really great. So thank you all for being part of New York Augmented Reality tonight. Barry and I worked hard on tonight's event, and we sincerely hope that you are going to enjoy it. So the agenda tonight is we're going to go over some Meetup insights. Then we'll talk about some of the latest news, and then we have presentations featuring Amal, Ghosh, Ted Brown, and Falcon Liu. Let's see. So this month, we are proud to announce that we almost hit the 2,000 member mark, like 1980. So really close. So
it was a good year.
It was a good year, a great almost achievement, and we couldn't have not done it without all your help. So. And then tonight marks our 30th meetup, where we've hosted over 100 speakers from across the industry, spreading knowledge and awareness of AR. So we really appreciate your support and joining this and past events. And we have two great upcoming events, including an in-person art walk with artist Shule Sadeh on Sunday, November 6th, where we'll be experiencing her site-specific AR installation, Bird's Eye View. And here to tell us more about the event is the artist herself, Shule Sadeh.
So hi, everyone. So good to join the group once again. We will have the last tour, actually. This is just to close the show, which opened in April, on Earth Day. And it's at Battery Park City. And it is about birds. It's about birds migration and kind of / immigration. But mainly it's the revival of more than 35 bird species who migrate to this area of Battery Park City, which you basically need to wait for a couple of days to see. So you'll be able to see everything via AR. And I created this in collaboration with Battery Park City Authority. And we lead groups. So this is going to be the final group before we are actually closing the show. So it'll be awesome if you can join. It's at 1 o'clock. You have all the details here. Just one word about what you see here, which is all these spheres are what the birds can see from above when they fly towards Battery Park City. So it's the aerial view of Battery Park and of the gardens floating, and the birds are flying and there is sound. So please join us. It'll be really great to meet everyone in person.
Thank you, Shule. I look forward to the event and seeing you there.
Thank you. Me too.
Thanks for hopping on. And then on November 21st, we have our next meetup with speakers joining us, including Caitlin Krause from Trip and Eric Johnson, who is offering business development tips for companies in the AR space. So we hope to see you there. You can find out more details for both of these events on our meetup page. Now I'd like to take the opportunity to thank my wonderful co-organizer of the group, Barry Seff. Barry, if you could enlighten us with a few words of wisdom, it would be our absolute pleasure.
Well, I just wanted to send a shout out to the Agus family and wish a hearty congratulations on you becoming a daddy.
Thank you. Thank you, Barry. Okay. Appreciate all your help in making these events possible. I couldn't have done it without you. And these meetups wouldn't be possible without you. So it's very exciting. Feel free to reach Barry on LinkedIn to hear more words of wisdom. And this brings me to the point of community. We realize that behind those rose-colored holographic glasses are isolated developers and designers looking for ways to connect. So if you are a skilled developer or designer looking for opportunities in the industry or would like to get involved in the group, speak at a future event, or help us organize upcoming meetups, reach out to either me or Barry, and we'd love to get the chance to chat. Now I'm excited to move on to our latest news segment, where I can share some of the latest updates from this past month. And if there's anything you'd like more detail on as I breeze through this, as I'm gonna try not to take like more than a minute or so, feel free to reach out and I will gladly send over some more links. So on Tuesday, Unity Unite is Tuesday, November 1st. We have Unity Unite. It's going to be in person online, so you could join to hear the talks and some of the latest updates on the game engine. On November 5th is Play NYC, a New York City gaming convention. Then there's probably a lot of things in the middle, but nevertheless, later on this month is the TechBlick mini and micro LED conference for the hardware folks. That's on November 30th, and that's going to be remote. And then in December, Immersive Global Summit is happening, and they are currently having a call for speakers. So if you want to speak at the conference, reach out to me. I could send you the link, and you just fill out their sheet there, and you could speak. And then I'm sure there's a lot of stuff going on in between those dates. And if not, maybe you could fill that space up with some time of your own. So that's November. Let's see, some funding. So Viture raised $10 million in funding following a Kickstarter crowd fund of $3 million earlier this year. The glasses don't provide environmental awareness, but they do display a 120-inch 1080p screen for streaming video games. And it's unclear where the company's headed in the future, but it could lend to more capable AR glasses. Enterprise AR company Tactile, who's joined us in the past, raised $5 million for a global deployment of Manifest remote workplace platform. And then a company called Ludenzo, a platform for book publishers to use augmented reality, raised $1 million seed round. So those are three notable fundings from this past month. And then some news. Meta had the Quest Pro that has an array of exterior sensors and cameras for full color pass-through. So definitely good for developers to start testing the creation of high fidelity augmented reality experiences. Microsoft IVAS, one of the largest military contracts, one of the largest projects in the augmented reality space, and a large military contract to Microsoft of $21.9 billion, is having trouble as soldiers are saying they're suffering mission affecting physical impairments and experiencing discomfort while wearing the headset. So it'll be interesting to see how this initiative turns out in the end. And then there wasn't supposed to be sound, but Lightship announced an update with some new features, including updates to semantic segmentation and occlusion system. So that's in the ARDK 2.3, and I could send you a link to that as well. And now to the more exciting stuff. It's my pleasure to move on to tonight's presentations with speakers joining us from across the industry. Sorry, Ted, I didn't mean to light your name there on fire.
Yeah, wow. Wow. Wow.
Let's see. With speakers all joining us to share their perspective and those working hard towards making the impossible a reality. After we'll have 5 minutes for Q&A, so feel free to post your questions or comments in the chat. And then Barry and I will collate the questions at the end of the talk and ask them to the speakers. And feel free to raise your hand in the participants panel after the talks if you want to ask the question live.
I'm sorry, but sorry for interrupting, but on my screen, I would just like to notify you. It says someone wants to join.
Uh-huh.
T-Rai.
Hold on.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, cool. So yeah, if you see that, you feel free to admit them. Awesome. Thank you very much for the call out. Now, without further ado,
No problem.
yeah. Okay, cool. Without further ado, I'm excited to introduce our first speaker, Amal Ghosh. Dr. Amal Ghosh is the Chief Operating Officer at eMagin Corporation. Prior to eMagin, he was employed at IBM Thomas Watson Research Center. Wow, sorry if there's these odd annotations. I'm sorry, Amal. Prior to eMagin, he was employed at IBM Thomas Watson Research Center and Eastman Kodak Company. He has held numerous positions at Society for Information Displays over the course of 30 years, including being the president of SID during 2014 to 2016. Dr. Ghosh is considered a pioneer in the field of OLED on silicon microdisplays. He is a fellow of SID. He has received numerous awards and recognitions for his work, including SID's Carl Ferdinand Braun Prize. Let me just take this guy out. Including SID's Carl Ferdinand Braun Prize, at SID's Special Recognition Award, Mid-Atlantic Chapter Award, and the Korean Information Display Society's Special Recognition Award. Dr. Ghosh received a PhD degree in physics from Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Cambridge. Thank you, Amal, for being here with us tonight.
Thank you, Andy, for a glorifying introduction. And I want to thank you and Barry for inviting me over this evening to speak. I really appreciate that. So can you hear me all right?
Yeah, it sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, and I want to make sure my slides are shown. Let me try that. You can see it now?
Yeah, it looks good. Thank you.
Okay, good. Okay, thanks. So once again, thanks Andy and Barry for inviting me over. It's really a pleasure to speak this evening to all of you. The title of my talk today is OLED on silicon microdisplays. This is an area that is applicable to both VR and AR. So my presentation will be kind of mixed between VR and AR. So please bear with me for that. So we are at eMagin Corporation in Hopewell Junction, New York. And so we are located inside of the old IBM East Fishkill. And that's a picture of the site. Actually, it's right now Global Foundries. And we started in 1993, actually, with field emission displays. Then sometime in 1997, we switched to OLED microdisplays. And we were one of the first ones to build active matrix OLED displays and microdisplays for that matter. So since that time, for almost more than 20 years, we are in full production of OLED microdisplays. We are a publicly traded company. We are small, but we are publicly traded in the AMEX since actually 2000, the year 2000. Okay, I'm going to, 15 minutes is not a long time, so I'm going to jump around a little bit and quickly catch up with various aspects. So OLED on silicon market opportunity. How big is this market? So this is a chart from DSCC, and the graph on the picture on the left is the shipments versus the x-axis is the year. So you can see that the different technologies, like the top gray area is LCD, then it's AMOLED, and then it is silicon OLED, which is actually OLED on silicon microdisplays, and so on and so forth. So the gray area, the LCD is pretty heavy duty right now, but from 2023 onwards, the blue and the green start taking over. And then somewhere in 2027, the green area, which is the OLED micro displays, is actually at the 50% level of the market share. So that's a pretty significant growth for OLED on silicon micro displays. On the right is the revenue for the overall market, which is AR, see-through AR, and also pass-through AR and VR. So you can see this is in dollar values. So in 2027, the projection is like $7.2 billion total. So this is a pretty good market opportunity for this technology. And we believe that OLED on silicon will capture, as this chart shows, the largest share of shipments from 2025 onwards, actually. So that's a pretty good, healthy growth. So these are some examples of what micro display sizes are, some of our products. For those of you who are not familiar with micro displays, these are very tiny things. And the bottom row shows the scale of these things, like the US quarter, and the display is actually smaller than the quarter. So we have various resolutions and various products. This is just 3 examples I'm showing. And so the first one is SVGA Plus, which is 852 by 600. It's on a 15 micron color pixel pitch. And the diagonally, it's 0.6 inches in diagonal. And then on the far right is the WUXJ, which is 1920 by 1200. This is more than HD resolution. The diagonal is 0.87 inch. And the color pixel pitch is 9.6 micron. So sub-pixel pitch is like 3.2 microns. So we have a wide spectrum from VGA, which is like 0.4 inch, to all the way we have built prototype, which is a 4K by 4K, which is little more than 2 inches in diagonal. So there is a wide spectrum of, those are not products, those are prototypes, but we have a wide spectrum of products as well. So in a nutshell, what is an OLED micro display? Well, it has various, mainly there is one major technology that is, we have developed it a long time ago, and many companies are following that now. And that is basically you generate white light and then use color filters to make the RGBs. So this is a cartoon of that on the left, which shows that the bottom is the silicon wafer, and then on top of that is the OLED. So what we do is typically we design the CMOS. CMOS is the circuitry we use for the silicon. We design the CMOS backplane in-house, and then we tape it out to a foundry outside. And then the wafers are made with CMOS and they ship it back to us. And then we start doing the OLED and the rest of the stuff. So our wafers are 200 millimeters or 8-inch wafers. So on the left, I'm showing there is a metal conductor horizontal dark line, and then there is a via stud that goes vertically up. That is the dark one. Following that is all we do in-house. And the magnifying glass here shows that there's an anode, which is a reflective anode, and then the organic layers, like a whole injection layer, whole transport layer. Then in this case, we have 2 emission layers, a blue-green layer and an orange layer. So the mixture of the 2 comes out as a white light. And then we have the electron transport layer and a transparent cathode, because this is a top emitter. And then we have the thin film seal and the color filters on the top. So this is what is our workhorse today, that most of our products are based on this. Now, the brightness we achieved for these things so far is about 3000 nits. And that includes no tandem, no micro lens, nothing, just single unit. We get 3000 nits maximum. So this has been the technology since 2001. The OLED fab looks something like this. Now you can imagine that these displays are very tiny. So the particles are, and the defects rather, are very critical. So defects need to be very, very tiny. So we need to operate in a clean room that is very high class. And so our clean room is class 10. And so on the right side, that shows a picture of our clean room. And on the left side is one of our machines. That's the OLED deposition machine, which is fairly large. It's about, there are like 8 different facets to the cluster tool. And so that's what we use for production. We of course have other tools as well, but this is one of the bigger ones. So with that background, what are the main considerations for AR VR? So basically, I always say that there are 4 major challenges for AR VR, and they are: the display is the first one. That is very critical because that's what you end up seeing. I'll talk about that in the next slide. Then optics. Optics is a very important one as well. So the need for, or the requirements for optics includes a very large field of view, that is for both cases. No distortion. The efficiency should be high. That means the light output should be fairly high, lightweight, and small form factor. So basically, you're asking for the sky, literally. Then content-wise, that's a very important part too, because if you recall, a few years ago, we used to have 3D televisions, and that was a big deal those days. But now nobody talks about it. The primary reason, I believe, was because there was a lack of content for those things. And so it kind of petered out. So content is very important. And also the chips for processing. If you have a 4K by 4K display, you're pushing a lot of data, especially if the frame rates are higher. And so we need the chips that can handle that kind of data. Lastly, this is the most important factor is the price. And if it is not very compatible with consumer industry, then that will be a problem. So, but all these factors have to come together to make this a successful business. Now, technically, the key requirements for both AR and VR includes these factors: the angular resolution that should be matching to the eye. The human eye has a certain angular resolution, it should match that. The field of view should be large, especially for VR, if you want an immersive experience. There should be no screen door effect. Some of the initial AR, VR devices had a screen door effect, which is of course decreasing nowadays as the resolution goes up. The speed should be high so that there are no motion artifacts. And somebody just said that there are some nausea effects and all that in the IVAS device, I think, and those kind of issues are typically related to motion artifacts. Contrast, of course, should be high, and the brightness that should match the eye's requirement. And of course, the colors need to be good. So these are all the key requirements for AR, VR. I'll just speak a little bit about the angular resolution and field of view and those kind of things for VR first. So as you may know already, the human eye has an angular resolution about 1 arc minute, which is 60 pixels per degree. Typically, most people believe the PPI should be about 3,000 to 5,000 PPI, and the pixel pitch needs to be around 6 to 10 microns. Of course, these are wishes of customers who build these kind of devices. So let's look at this table for a second. The human eye's resolution is 1 arc minute. So if I have taken 3 cases here: 1 arc minute, 1.5 arc minute, and 3 arc minutes. So what are the pros and cons if you do that? So if you take the first one, 1 arc minute, you can calculate all these things: field of view, resolution, pixel pitch, PPI, and display size. So if you look at the display size, I marked it in red, which is 48 millimeters. Now that's a problem, because all these displays are made with semiconductor equipment, which includes a stepper. There is no stepper today that will give you that size field of exposure in one shot. So what one has to do then is start stitching, and stitching leads to many other issues. Not that you can't do it, but the cost goes up, the yield may be an issue, all kinds of things. Okay, so that's the problem there. If you look at the third one, say 3 arc minutes, then you can see the PPD is very low, 20 only. So that's a low resolution display. I don't think people will like that too much. So what is the best thing to do with today's technology? So if you take 1.5 arc minute, you can see that I have marked that green. That is the sweet spot today. You can do it. The display size can be about 32 millimeters on each side, which is doable with the steppers. And the PPI is more than 3000, and PPD is 40, and field of view can be 100 degrees, which is all tolerable and not too bad. So, but overall, some trade-offs between performance and manufacturability is needed today. Hopefully it will change in the future, but these are the issues today. A few other considerations for VR, for example, one has to use very high frame rates, and pulse width modulation is one of them, which is needed for persistence. So if you look at the display brightness at the eye, and if you assume that it's say 150 nits or so, then there are two things that one has to consider on a broader basis. The optics efficiency. A good optic is usually like 10% or lower efficiency, and then you go 50% and whatever the different levels of optics. And for persistence purposes, most of the customers demand low duty cycle, like 10%. So to get a better image quality and no nauseous feeling and all that, motion artifacts. So if you combine these two, the optics and the duty cycle, you can see that 10% efficiency and 10% duty cycle, you would need 15,000 nits at the eye to get 150 nits at the eye, sorry, 15,000 nits at the display level. So that's a pretty high brightness for a VR. Most people think that, oh, VR is occluded, you don't need very high brightness. No, that's not quite true. You do need high brightness even for VR. So again, there are trade-offs between motion artifacts, optics efficiency, and brightness are needed. If you look at AR, this is again, AR is always a brightness hog in a way. So here you have to have a little more brightness at the eye because normally you're fighting the ambient and so on and so forth. So you assume that you need 500 nits at the eye. Then again, if you apply these things, optics efficiency and duty cycle, you get very high brightnesses like 50,000 nits. But again, one thing that will save you a little bit is that maybe the quality of optics can be a little lower than VR, where you need an immersive experience. If AR application is mostly for data and that kind of things, then you don't really need a very high quality optics. But still, the brightness, again, mainly for see-through, you're fighting the ambient, and you have to have very high brightness. So the bottom line message is that we need very high resolution, high brightness, and high contrast micro displays for AR and VR, both applications. And we believe that these requirements we can satisfy by OLED micro displays. So with that in mind, what we set to do is that the picture on the right side, left side rather, shows the standard white OLED with color filter. So what we thought is that these color filters take a lot of light out. They take out like 80% of the light. So you are left with only 20% of the useful emitted light. So what if we get rid of the color filters? That will really help us improve the brightness. But if you want to do that, you have to pattern the OLED itself and get rid of the color filters. So the RGB will come directly from the OLED materials, emission materials. So that's one thing. But another good thing is that if you do it this way, you can actually use the phosphorescent materials, like for red and green especially, which are extremely efficient. They are 3 times more efficient than the fluorescent materials that are used in the white OLED with color filters. So the two together, using phosphorescent materials as well as removing the color filters, gives us a big boost on the brightness. So we did that actually, and I'm not going to go into details how we did it exactly because those are our proprietary technology. So we built a WUXGA 1920 by 1200 resolution, 9.6 micron pixel pitch. And so this was about 2645 PPI, and we get maximum luminance of more than 10,000 nits. So in fact, we measured in an analyst meeting where the analysts measured themselves, it was 11,300. So these are actually live, actual pictures from operating displays. And so that was our big improvement in brightness. These are some of the data for that. I'm showing here on the left side is luminance on the y-axis and current density on the x-axis. So the red plot is one of our earliest OLED, we call it XL, white OLED with color filter. The green, the blue one in the middle is the XLE product, which is again white OLED with color filter, but much better stack and much better brightness. And the green one is our what we call as direct patterned displays. So you can see that that's a significant improvement in the brightness for the same current density. And on the right side is also the voltage versus luminance. Again, there is a significant improvement. So in both cases, we get like more than 4x improvement in brightness. And that's how we got that 10,000 nits. So this is our product portfolio and roadmap. So we have various products. And so, sorry. Okay. We have a product of mono green, which gives a very high brightness. That's fine. Then the white OLED with color filters, we have XL, XLS, and XLE. So I was talking about the XLE, which has today 1500 nits typical, but it goes up to 3000 nits. So in the future, I didn't put it in the roadmap here, but we are working towards 3000 nits typical so that we can get a further improvement in efficiency. And on the right side is the ULT. ULT is our direct patterned one that I just talked about. And today we have more than 10,000 nits max. And our target is to achieve 25,000 nits or even higher. So one thing I want to mention here is that whatever we do improvements for white OLED with color filters, for example, tandem structure or micro lens or whatever you call, those are all applicable to direct patterning. So we will always have the brightness, the highest brightness compared to anybody who is doing white OLED with color filters. So that we think is a big leg up over all our competitors. At the bottom here, I'm showing all the products, VGA through 2K and 4K. So these are some of the 4K is a prototype, of course, but the other ones are products. Okay, and so with that, I want to just conclude by saying that high brightness OLED on silicon micro displays will be the technology of choice in the coming years for AR, VR, MR applications. I'm including AR as well because once we get into the higher brightness, like 25,000 nits and above, I'm sure many doors will open up. So with that, I just want to thank you for your attention and let me know if you have any questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Amal. We have a few questions. Before we move on, I wanted to apologize for some of the spam on tonight's meetup that came our way. So we'll do our best to address this for future meetups. Right now, we have a few participants closely monitoring the participants panel and notifying me of any inappropriate content. I'm working on disabling the annotations so people are not able to draw on the screens. And lastly, I disabled participant messaging to everyone. So if you have any questions for the speakers, feel free to message me directly. And with that, Amal, I have a few questions for you that I'd love to ask.
Sure.
Thank you. The first one, Amal, what is your opinion on silicone being harmful to the environment, and what are companies doing about that? Silicon
is used everywhere in all chips. I don't know where the harmfulness is coming from, because every chip is silicon, isn't it? Every computer chip. Yeah, there are processes that are used that the chemicals could be harmful, but I think the world would come to a standstill if there was no silicon today.
Thank you, Amal. Another question. Are there mass production tools for DPD available, or what is the roadmap?
Okay, good question. So far we did it on an R&D mode, but we are building a tool that is pretty much production level. That should be coming up next year, middle of next year. And it will be kind of an intermediate production level. It won't be like making millions, but it will make a fairly large number of displays. And from then on, and these are all on 8-inch wafers. So mass production is very, very doable actually. And so we are basically actively discussing the path for mass production.
Awesome, thank you. Question from Michael Miller. Are you planning to design smaller pixel size to better fit AR systems?
Yes, we can do. Actually, I had a slide which I took it out in the last minute, but that showed that our direct patterning technology is capable of doing much smaller than what I showed here. We can actually do 1.5 micron by 1.5 micron squares. But the limit comes to some extent not from direct patterning, but it is the silicon, the CMOS. Now, the CMOS itself needs to have, like, for example, somebody may have 2 transistors and a storage capacitor. So that needs some real estate. And so that needs to be looked in, that how small one can make those. But definitely we have done 8.1 micron color pixel pitch, but we can go much smaller. And like 6 micron is doable. I'm talking when the limit will come will be more like 1.5 to 2 micron range.
Awesome, thank you. I have one more question that I'll ask. And if you want to post your LinkedIn or some contact info if folks want to ask you anything further. This question is from Chris C. Does your 4K by 4K micro display need to stitch patterns from the side stepper?
Yes, that is so big, it did need stitching.
Okay. Do you have Chris, if you have a follow-up on that, feel free to add it here. Let's see, cool. There's actually, okay, I'll ask one more question from Greg. How close are we to displays which can provide a resolution equivalent to normal real-life vision?
How close we are? I mean, as I showed you the issues there, like if you really want 1 arc-minute resolution, that is the closest to the resolution of the eye. You have to go into stitching, and so it's doable. It's not that it's impossible, it's doable, but the cost of manufacturing, yield, all those factors will have to be taken into account. I think it will get there one day, but not tomorrow.
Awesome, thank you, Amal. I appreciate you joining us tonight.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for the attention.
Thank you. Share my screen.
How do I get out? Okay.
There I go.
Okay.
Thanks, Amal.
You're welcome.
It's an honor to have with us one of the leading and most progressive mixed reality designers in the industry, at least in my view, Ted Brown.
That's not the intro I wrote, man.
Ted is a game designer and engineer who has been working in the mixed reality space since 2016. He has shipped 2 mixed reality devices, the Magic Leap 1 and Snap's next generation spectacles. He likes to explore practical solutions for the challenges that mixed reality brings to the design and development of new and traditional user experiences. He doesn't have a claim to fame, but he does have a few patents and an English degree, a combination rarely found outside of Victorian England and the retirement swamps of South Florida. Thank you, Ted, for joining us tonight.
Yes, thank you, Andy, and thank you for the kind words. Much appreciated. So yeah, let's hop right to it. I'm gonna share my screen and let's get going. Okay, so so we're talking about the future of AR storytelling today in 15 minutes or less. So timer is going. Let's go. So we're talking about AR, but we're not talking about phones. So we're going to talk about the future, right? So the future is going to be AR eyewear. It's going to be mainstream at some point. It's the ergonomic form factor that enables actual immersive experiences, and stories need that to be impactful. So when you imagine what I'm about to talk about, please keep that in mind. Also, I've compressed a much longer talk into 15 minutes. So I'll be moving through a lot of stuff really quickly. And I apologize for breaking through rules kind of, as a result. So, all right. Since the beginning of time, humans have told stories. Narrative formats convey information in a way that is comfortable to us. There's context, an action, and a consequence. We use this to teach moral and ethical codes, to bridge gaps between cultures, and to learn how to handle situations before we encounter them. We may have started with oral storytelling, which has provided these consistent lessons in a dynamic format, but in the West, at least, we eventually migrated to books and plays, static expressions of the author's will. And when movies came into existence in the 1900s, they borrowed concepts from the stage because it was a similar medium. But as technology progressed, film grew into a medium of its own and built a new design language centered around control of the camera, meaning what the viewer is looking at and how the shot is framed, as well as control over the scene. But in AR, directors don't control any of these things. Users can look in any direction at any time, even away from important action. And in most cases, it's the user who determines where the action takes place, not the director. As a result, augmented reality is best described as a new medium. And as a new medium, we have to understand the technology behind it before we can break down and rebuild the art of storytelling into something that wasn't possible before. So AR experiences start by trying to understand the world around the user. First, we build a mesh of the scene, then we label the objects, and then we define how it can be used by the experience. This lets life-size digital actors use the space in a natural fashion. How we create digital actors to use any chair in front of them is actually an entirely different talk. It's very possible, but insanely complicated. We're just going to assume that for now. And remember, we're not talking about first generation AR, the ones that treat the world as kind of a backdrop, like where your location might matter, but the space around you doesn't. It's optional. It's not truly part of the experience. It's just kind of hanging out there. We're also not talking about second generation AR, which takes real spaces and turns them into virtual spaces or digital twins. That lets creators build content specifically for it, but that's also not what we're talking about today. We're talking about an infinite number of spaces, indoors and outdoors, real-time and pre-scanned, that users will want to fill with a specific kind of content, from branded experiences to exciting stories featuring their favorite characters, to new and previously impossible types of experiences that only immersive AR can deliver. Which is why we have to talk about space before we talk about story. How can we build content for a space we will never see? How does that impact the stories we can tell? The answer seems to be more and more here, as in other places, is machine learning and design-guided procedural content generation. Some people are turned off by the idea of machine learning or AI generating content. I mean, I get that, but let's remember two things. Number one, this is not passive content. Users are participants, even if all they do is choose like the space. This creates emotional investment and narrative resonance. I'll talk about later. And two, we are going to have control over how we use that space. We control props, actors, scale, the script. The key here is that we are training a model to think like we do. So imagine a virtual world with 1 million empty houses, each with a random number of randomly shaped rooms. And your job is to fill them with furniture. If you did one every hour for 40 hours a week, it would take you about 250 years to do all of that. And you could hire 25 people, and then it would just take 10 years, no big deal, right? Or maybe you would design a rule set that fills the rooms for you, but then you have to validate that. And you just see any errors, you have to change your heuristics, and then try it all over again. Eventually, you'd create a really complex series of interconnected rules that get easier and easier to break every change. This is a pretty significant issue for simulations such as games that need all that fidelity. The alternative is to go through 1,000 rooms, place content as you see fit, and then train a machine learning model as you do so. This is not a perfect solution either, but it does have the benefit of building a digital twin of yourself that can adapt to new context while keeping your style intact. This is how it's possible to apply a creator's unique touch to an infinite number of spaces they'll never see and usually can't anticipate. We can do the same thing with actors. Yes, we can scan Benedict Cumberbatch, then have an animator animate him and a voice actor copy him and a designer set up his behavior. But then it's just a robot in a virtual skin. It's a chorus of creative voices, not a singular one. But in the future, Benedict Cumberbatch could train a Doctor Strange model to walk like he does, talk like he does, react like he does. That would bring acting back into the virtual actor. And let his version of Doctor Strange appear anywhere in the world, or knowing Disney on Disney properties, but you get the idea. So now that we've talked about virtual stages and virtual actors, we're going to talk about the events that happen in the scene, the script. Specifically, we're going to talk about how a script and a story can naturally exist in the space around the user in a way that reflects our artistic goals. Choose a play as an example, just kind of to start easy. These are photos of the same scene from 4 different productions of The Scarlet Letter. All of these stages are different. The actors are different. The costumes are different. The text of the script, though, is the same. In essence, the actors are running the script on the stage that they are given. In AR, the user creates the stage, and the digital actors carry out the script as best they can in the space provided. Most of the scene is just set dressing. It's just context. It's not actually important to the actual script. So then how would this play be different in a coffee shop or an office? How do the actors make use of that space? How does the context of the space, the set dressing, affect the narrative? It's not just space either. It's geographic area, cultural region, time of day, weather, the season. Is it Christmas? Is it New Year's? Is it July 4th? All this can have a narrative impact, and we can choose to weave it into our narrative or not. How would it affect the meaning of the play if it took in place in the world around the user? If we modernize the actor's looks and tweak the script to match the context, it can amplify the resonance of the experience and make a very deep impact. It feels more present, more now. But if you ignore the social context, amplify the dissonance by having actors in period costumes, it can highlight how far we've come, or maybe not very far, as we've seen today. And it can also make a different kind of impact. You can make these choices. You can train an AI to make these choices, or you can ask a user to decide. There's no wrong answer, but there are increasingly a lot more choices. So we've talked about understanding the world around you, but we also can take what we know about the user themselves, their identity, their interests, and their cultural context. It's actually possible to tell a consistent story while taking all of that into account. So this is a partial list of known adaptations of Romeo and Juliet. A single script from hundreds of years ago spawned all of these stories. A violent Hindi adaptation called The Dance of Bullets, a queer breakdancing adaptation called Romeo and Julio, and prepare yourselves, Romeo and Juliet. Terrible, but hey, here we are. My point is that all of these are unique versions of a story that's still recognizable under massive changes that the author never could have foreseen. And that brings us finally, and I'm sorry, to the future of AR storytelling. In 2016, researchers fed thousands of published works into a machine learning model and discovered there are about 6 story structures. 6, more or less. And that can be graphed. Like here's Romeo and Juliet, for example. Starts out great, peaks early, then it's a slow descent into tragedy. All of these graphs, these 6 stories, look like this. And what you're looking at is the result of the natural language processing models breaking down stories into graphs into data. So now this model has been trained. It can recognize a story you give it. And when combined with a modern AI text generation tool like GPT-3, any prompts that you give it can generate these iconic stories as well. But if you have a model of all the stories in the world and an infinite number of spaces to fill, how do you exercise control? And do you like rhetorical questions? I don't. I'm so sorry. That was an error. We'll fix that in post. And so analogies are actually pretty helpful here. Take this block of stone as an example. Untouched, there's an infinite number of potential sculptures waiting inside of it. So how do you begin to make something beautiful? How do you, as the story goes, turn a block of marble into the carving of an elephant? And if you made the answer, just chip away everything that's not an elephant. So look at the room around you for a second. In that space, there are an infinite number of stories that can play out. So how do you start chipping away? Well, first, you can decide what data is used to train the text generation algorithm. And second, you can add direction by restricting the types of stories that are told and just how much players can affect it. Here's a visual example of training data. So imagine drawing 1,000 bees and feeding it into a machine learning algorithm. Once you've trained that, you can ask the algorithm to generate a bee of its own, and it'll look like an average of all of your bees. A couple of years later, and now here we are, we can make images just like this with just a few words. We can even have the AI use a specific artist style. When it comes to text and stories, which again have shared patterns, just like these trees, you can decide how to train this algorithm. You can feed it the entire works of Chaucer or Shakespeare or Terry Pratchett or J.K. Rowling, or even your own, and make that the voice of the story. You can generate a story through enforced motifs and required components as well. Must be a tragedy of young lovers set during the Revolutionary War with dragons. I don't know, for example. But there are natural limits. You can't fit a Star Destroyer in a coffee shop, right? Epic tales might really demand open skies, but sometimes you just don't have that option. And maybe that's okay. There are some straightforward techniques for adapting huge outdoor experiences to table scale. The experience might be the same, technically, but it will feel completely different. It's like an establishing shot. You can have something up close and intimate with like life-size actors sitting in your space and establishing their presence. Or you can reduce the scale to amplify the effect of distance of the smallest in the world by having them toy size on your table, on the floor. That's kind of the joy in that of exploring the space. Some of the same design language of cinema is there, of books, but it's different. It's evolving. Finally, games, cinema, and books all have their own kind of unique tricks for making emotional impacts on their audience, but so does AR. One is called motor mimicry and its effect on emotional contagion. So first, remember, the user is a participant because they are holding the camera or wearing the camera. Second, our physical posture represents our emotional state. If your arms crossed, you're implying resistance, for example. Third, changing our posture can affect our emotional state. That's why smiling makes you feel good. And fourth, we're social animals. This is the most important thing. We look for nonverbal cues of how to react to novel situations so we can adapt and conform to the dominant emotional and cognitive paradigm of our peer group. This is a survival mechanism for Homo sapiens. And we, as storytellers, can hijack it for the greater good. We can hijack it for ourselves. So you know this, and you want to make a story where the user feels like Aladdin. Your job is to make them pick up the lamp and forget who they are for a moment and pretend they are someone else. The setup is really simple, and I've actually tested this with spectacles. You start the experience, and the lamp appears on a table in front of you. If you just walk up and grab the lamp, it disappears in a puff of smoke. It's mathematically consistent, but clearly the UX is saying no. Then you are told how to approach the lamp. Lower your body, move slowly, and keep your hands up. We can detect all those things in the glasses. And by the time the user gets close to the lamp, not only will their dopamine be spiking in anticipation, they're going to feel like a thief because they're acting like one, because that's how our brains are wired. The last time I saw this in action, this is my last example, I built an experience that lets you start a real fire with a digital fireball you cast with your hand. Most people kind of treated it like a button press. They held up their hand, saw the fire, like, oh, that was cool, thanks. Whatever. But one guy who was a vice president at the time, it's a very tall person, he did it differently. He stood in place quite still. And after a long moment, shot out his hand like she was Gandalf. Like I was like, whoa, dude, that was amazing. But but I thought afterwards, he really had a better time. He had a much better time than anyone else did, but I did nothing different in the experience. And I realized that because I was using a hand gesture, it enabled him, it allowed him, it encouraged him to perform and to act and to believe he was Gandalf. He felt like someone else for a moment, and that is impactful. That, I think, is part of the path to the future of AR storytelling. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ted. That was awesome. Few questions that came my way. First from Sam. I don't predict that movies on Netflix or streaming services are going to start using AI generated stories anytime soon. What is different about AR that you think that this is the future?
No, that's true. I mean, I don't think linear media is going away. But if you look at Bandersnatch or video games, there is room, more growing room for user choice. But what I believe is that there are new types of experiences that are going to be possible with AR that literally aren't possible with TV or books or movies. And that's kind of what I'm getting at, is that those can make you feel some way using their cinematic tricks, but with AR, because you're a participant, there is much more powerful social dynamics that are in play, like making eye contact directly with you, having you as part of the story, having you do things that make you feel a certain way, as opposed to having music do that or having someone else as an actor do that. So this is my belief. It's a hypothesis, but it is grounded in some real research. Thanks for the question. I think you're right.
Another question. What value does the AR headset have versus the phone display?
Yeah, glad you asked. I cut this for time, but in general, I have found, working at Snap, that a phone AR experience really is only comfortable for about a minute, because you're holding it up and the FOV is like this big, right? And you're kind of, this is all you can see, and so you're kind of focused on this small little black mirror in front of you, with a greater world behind you, and so you're ignoring the people around you, you're ignoring the world around you. It's very small view. It's also 2D. With glasses and eyewear, basically the virtual content blends with the world almost seamlessly. It will at one point, and that allows us to kind of, to get buy deeper into the illusion that it is actually happening around us. And so I think that when it comes to storytelling, like there's the magic circle, right? Believing, suspension of disbelief and belief. Suspension of disbelief is the key ingredient of a good story, in my opinion. And so AR glasses brings us much, much closer to that. There's also the fact that in terms of 6-off tracking and capabilities of world understanding and user understanding, like the form factor of eyewear is built for that. It's much stronger, and therefore the AR experience will be better.
Awesome, thank you. Another question. What are some ways that you can test the effectiveness, or have done in the past, of the AR stories that you create?
No, that's a great question, and I think this is a very, very new field that I've been surprised by, and so far I've had some pretty strong hits by randomly asking friends and family and coworkers to try things out. But it really needs some focused time and attention to really prove this out. And I could be wrong, right? I do believe in the hypothesis, but I think we're waiting for someone to really kind of make a go at it. And I think the other thing that we're all really missing is, I think with the Meta Quest Pro and the 3 when it comes out, we're going to get closer to a mass market immersive mixed reality headset that really makes this possible. And so I think in about a year, 2 years, we're going to have more experiments that we can try and see, how and if this medium does need its own storytelling techniques.
Awesome. Thank you, Ted. One more question. Are there any specific tools or for folks starting out, like processes for designing one's own story from scratch?
Yeah. So I would say, right now, there are so many aspects to this, like understanding how to use GPT-3 to generate stories, right? That's one thing. Understanding how to use Midjourney or how to train your own model, for example, this is a huge part of this. But I think if you work backwards to at some point, there's going to be a script that's generated. Eventually, there'll be digital actors and 3D models that are generated. If you start with those already as fixed things you've built, and then try to make that work within the space that you have, you might find that just seeing a chair and realizing, okay, how do I know which way that my actor's sitting at? How do I get the animation to blend to the proper height? There are a whole bunch of small problems that we already have to solve. And so I think the reason I talk about plays is that that's a good starting point. You can take plays and give actors directions to say, sit in chair, look at other actor. And if you can get that to play out in any scene you're in, then that tool set that you've built can then be used to interject new scenes, like Mad Libs sort of style, like where it's like pick up item on the table and threaten someone with it. Well, that could be a game controller, it could be a cup, it could be a vase. Like that becomes kind of a little more a lighthearted way of actually interjecting the player space of understanding to the story without actually changing it or derailing it all too much. So I think there's many layers of depth to this that you can explore. But right now, there are just so many fundamentals that are just still in their nascent stages. They're getting better all the time, but let's say start simple, make something work, make it short, prototype it, and then build from there.
Awesome. Thank you, Ted. One more question came in from Patrick. He wants to know if you have any AR storytellers that you'd recommend following at the moment.
There aren't very many. I think Google has done Google and Meta have the most VR storytellers right now. And I think if you've played First Contact on the Meta Quest, I think that is a great example of a story that plays out more in your head than in the world, in the virtual space it's in. But again, very new. And if you have anything, follow me on, or not follow me, but post on Twitter, tag me. I'm always interested in finding more artists that I haven't heard of. And so, but thanks for the question. Thanks for the interest. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of all this.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ted, for joining.
You're welcome. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, cool. I'm going to share my screen again. Appreciate all the questions. I'm going to share that link to the First Contact experience. Let's see. And there's Isabel. I see her in the video. Hello. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, sorry, Falcon, I'll be with you in 1 second. Okay, let me share my screen here. This is a long animation. And finally, I'm excited to introduce Falcon Liu from PlayNitride. Falcon is marketing director of PlayNitride, a company founded in 2014 that provides solutions for micro-LED technology for new generation displays. He oversees new business development, marketing, and emerging display applications. Falcon received his bachelor's degree in physics from National Taiwan University and a master's degree in electrical engineering from Boston University. He has worked as panel designer, product manager, product planning, and technical marketing in the display industry for more than 20 years. Prior to joining PlayNitride, he worked in AU Optronics, SciPix Technology, Samsung Taiwan, and Corning Taiwan. Thank you, Falcon, for joining us tonight.
Thank you. So let me share the screen first.
Awesome.
Okay, so can you see the screen?
Looks good.
Okay, great. So good evening, everyone. My name is Falcon. I'm working in PlayNitride. So I'm glad to share with you about the MicroLED display technologies. So very first to introduce our company. So PlayNitride, we are a Taiwan-based company, and we founded in 2014, and we are located in Taiwan and the Hsinchu Science Park. So far, we are starting for production. So we have more than 360 employees, and which including around 1/3 of people are R&D engineers. And we just listed in Taiwan Innovation Board in August. So so we are convinced we are promised to our partners that we will working on MicroLED for the mass production and for the technology development. So far, we starting to demonstrate MicroLED technologies from 2018, and through these years, I think every year we got awards from some of the organizations so that people just very recognize our work for the MicroLED technologies. And we also just very quickly show you that we have lots of patents covering all kinds of technologies to make the MicroLED display. So why people are thinking to use MicroLED technologies? So if we just see the words like micro LED, so which means this is LED, and we already know that we're using lots of LED solutions in our life, like for our lightings and for all your LCD displays, there are LED backlight, and also for the outdoor, you can see a very big LED TV walls or LED signage that is also utilize the very good performance from LED. So we will think about, is it possible to use LED for others displays for the smaller pitch, like for your laptop, your mobile phone, your watch, or else? So that comes to MicroLED. So micro LED, which means it is LED, but we make the LED chip to micrometer scale. So for example, like the LED chips we are using is about less than 30 micron at least. And also we will have for the AR applications, we use the MicroLED chip for 2.5 microns. So I'll show you later. So here, just tell you some of the ideas why we want to use MicroLED technologies. So the very first is for low power consumptions, which we know the LED can save lots of power, and high brightness and high contrast. So we see for the lightings or for the outdoor signage, the LED that's very bright. So it's the same as MicroLED. So we can have very, very high brightness, especially for micro display. And ultra high resolution is defined by the backplane. So if we have the backplane like using the silicon, so we can achieve very high PPI. For example, we have achieved 4,500 PPI already. So MicroLED can make very ultra high resolution. And for not for AR, but for other display application, if we use the plastic backplane, then we can make the display flexible. And of course, if the backplane with different shape, then we can make not only rectangular, we also can make any other all kinds of the freeform display. And response time, that might be important for some applications, but so far, LED itself, it is the on-off response time is under nanosecond scale, comparing to like liquid crystal that is millisecond scale. So the response time is very fast. So there should be the display performance should be better. And the last, we already know LED has good reliability. So that if you will use the MicroLED display in some of the environment that will require higher reliability, there's no problem to use MicroLED display. So far, MicroLED is only display emitting devices. So if we want to make the MicroLED display, then we need the driving backplane to define the resolutions, the metrics, and driving to different brightness and gray level. So for PlayNitride, we already have the solutions. So you can use for on TFT and on PCB or on silicon. So using the TFT, maybe since the TFT is on glass that's transparent, so MicroLED has a very unique characteristic to be transparent, to make the transparent display. And today we will more focus on the last one, for the MicroLED on silicon, so which is for the AR glasses. Okay, so people, we think that this is said by Tim Cook. So in the future, we will live all under AR. So we will think it's difficult for us to think without AR in the future, just like we need a mobile phone right now. It's difficult for us to think about if we don't have mobile phone. So here's a forecast from the EO group using the different display technology to make the AR glasses, or say to make the micro display. So you can see that starting from now, the MicroLED, the portion will getting more and more. But so far, currently, because the like MEMS or LCOS is already available, so they will have some of the portions. But moving forward, since after MicroLED getting more mature, it will get more portions in these technologies. So that's an ideas. So what AR looks like, that we need some compact, stylish, comfort, low power, high image quality, and low cost. So that's because if we want everyone to get the glasses, then it should be the cost should be low enough. So here's one of the idea, but I think these photos just show more like between smart glasses and AR, but more like for the AR glasses, you need to do the interactions, or like here shows for the more bright environment. So which means if you want to see the image like this, then it should be bright enough. And then because of the AR glasses is kind of projection type display. So for the source, the display itself, you need to be very bright. Then after this of the light engines and all the structures, then you can see the bright enough image in the environment. So far we get some of the ideas to you that there will be several solutions to make the AR glasses, the display of AR glasses. So That's let me starting from left and right and then the middle. So we can see that there will be LCoS, which is a liquid crystal on silicons, and that is requires you can see a very complicated structures to reflect the light, red, green, blue, and then combine to the full color. And the DOP is using the digital light processing, but this chip is only provided by TI. So that will be some of the constraints there. And also you need a color wheel to generate the color. So overall, that the structure might be big. And laser beam scanning, there's the laser will come from there was some light how does it like a speckle that's coming from the laser itself. So the image performance, there might have some concerns. And for micro OLED, comparing to micro LED, one is the brightness constraints for the OLED lifetime, and another, I think that will the lifetime and reliability, that will be more the constraints coming from the OLED. So that's why we're thinking to use micro LED. It can be very bright and also with very good lifetime. So based on that requirement, so you hear the left diagram shows some of the companies already presented micro LED display technologies. And the PlayNitride, we first demo is about 1,500 PPI, and now we move to 4,500 PPIs, and so that will, we think for the technology itself, we can meet some of the requirement, but maybe we will moving further based on depends on the customers their feedback. So the right hand side shows what our demo in SID in April. So we have a 0.49 inch Full HD, and that is 4536 PPI and full color. So it's a single chip full color, and that's of course composed by the micro LED technologies. So it can be very bright. So far we achieved without optimization, it can be more than 20,000 nits. So for the future, people are asking us to provide 1 million nits, but it takes some time. But at least we will have more than 100,000 nits for the short target. And for this demo, the 0.49 inch Full HD, there's already 4 million 2.5 micron micro LEDs there. So that's what I mentioned, that the micro LED chip can be very small, just depends on the backplane itself. So what we do to make this display is, first we have here's lots of the micro LED displays. There's LEDs there. It's the chip size less than 3 microns. So each unit is a chip or a display chip. And also we get the CMOS backplane and make some of the process to make sure they can combine together. So then you can reference, here's the display size, and here is the one NT dollar, and the size is about like a dime. That's the size of the dime. And then we just make the display modules to display make the here just add the FEC connectors for you to connect your device to input the signal. So far, the planning for us is we will focus on this 0.49 inch first, and we already have demo, and we we will have the samples ready to deliver end of this year, and keep improving this display as a platform. So this display we're going to have volume production from end of next year, 2023. And meanwhile, because this we think the performance is not optimized for MicroLED, so we will have customized CMOS, which we'll discuss with the customer. So this might be going to higher PPI or higher brightness or smaller display size or anything that's more fit to the AR glasses requirement. And so far, this will be going to, I think this will be earlier, because in the past, silicon, there's a lot of a very serious shortage. So we propose to starting from end of 2024. But since it seems like the silicon supply condition is getting better these days, so we suppose that this kind of customized device can be production earlier. And yeah, so we are focusing the MicroLED display technology, and we hope we can bring the change to the world. And since the display itself is I have to say, seeing is believing. So it's difficult just showing this information to you. So if we are going to have the demonstration in Photonics West in Photonics West 2023 in San Francisco Moscone Center, and it will be from January 31st to February 2nd. So if you have chance, then we'll welcome you to visit our booth to see the real MicroLED display and think about how you can use this technology to your AR glasses design. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Falcon. Could I ask you a few questions?
Sure, please.
Awesome. Let's see. Is the flexible display fabricated with a roll-to-roll process or flat substrate?
Okay, so flat display, the process now is they will still use under the glass, it's rigid, but coating polyimide on top. Then all the process is the same as rigid display. And after the process, they do the delaminate, the leave-off process. So using the laser to remove the polyimide away from the glass, then it will be flexible. So it's not a flat roll-to-roll process. It's more like a batch type or chip-to-chip process.
Awesome. Regarding production, is that something done in-house or with a partner?
So for PlayNitride, we accept the silicon backplane we got from our partners. The others we all do in-house, including the LED wafer epitaxy and MicroLED chip processing and the mass transfer bondings, and also the testing, and also the attached to the make the display module. So we done most of the things by ourselves.
Awesome. Thank you. Another question here. Are waveguides required with MicroLEDs? Okay,
so I think the light engine or the optical design, it depends on your requirement. With the MicroLED display itself, it's only a display, or say light source, display image source. So but people told me that the light waveguide will be the major technology, or in the future. I'm not sure at all, but that's what I heard. However, the waveguide, the efficiency is quite low. As I know, it will be like 0.1% to 1% of light efficiency. So which means 99%, more than 99% light will be lost. So that's why what I mentioned, people are asking PlayNitride to make a 1 million nits display for them, because for 0.1% efficiency, then you can get 1000 nits to your eyes. So that's so for waveguide, MicroLED is a good solution for them, but MicroLED is not limited to the waveguide solution.
Awesome. All right, a few more questions. Lost that here. Do you think micro LEDs are a real competitor to OLED?
Well, depends on what kind of applications. So for micro display, we think that will be, you can say the competitors for the future, because we are targeting the same business, same market, but with different performance. But if you consider for mobile phone, then OLED, I think it is dominate in mobile phone market. So we won't be their competitors, at least for the coming 5 years.
Awesome, thank you. Question from Shuli. She wants to know, how does the stronger light affect the eye?
Well, for display makers, we just try to provide the maximum the performance to our customers. So which means we can have 10,000 nits and 3,000 30,000 nits, or even to in the future 1 million nits. It really depends on the overall structure. So we just try to tell you that maximum we can have. So once you need that, for example, you need to use it outdoor under the sunshine, then you can have enough brightness. However, for most of the case, you don't need that bright, because when you see very bright, you will feel not comfortable. So the display can dimming to make a lower brightness to fit the environment. So far for this kind of like AR glasses, or any of even like mobile phone, there's a ambient sensor to check the environmental light condition and control the brightness of the display. So display just try to provide the maximum to our customers, and for the device for the end products, these makers, they will decide how bright they need.
Awesome, thank you. I have 2 more questions, Falcon.
Yeah.
One of them is regarding maybe more of a comment, but micro LED on silicone versus glass. What would be the benefits of doing that?
For the glass, it is using TFT. So the TFT process itself, the photolithography process, the limitation is different. So now we know the silicon is talking to like 3 nanometers, this kind of scale, but usually for micro LED, we don't need that advanced technology, but maybe like under the 0.1 for the process, we need maybe 0.5 micron for the pad, and for the circuit design, maybe 90 nanometer may be sufficient. So silicon is very capable for very high pixel density of very high PPI solutions. However, for the TFT, because the TFT design concept is to make the display very big, so their equipment, the resolution is about 1.5 micrometers, or the best thing I heard is right now is maybe 1.2 micrometers. So you can imagine that this kind of resolutions for the photolithography equipment, then it can not make very tiny high resolution display. So maybe like a 500 PPI will be their constraints.
Amazing, thank you. Last question from Greg. Are there any problems from high frequency signals being used so close to the eyes and neural tissues?
Well, I don't know actually, but for the display itself, the frame rate usually like what as I know, the requirement is 90 Hertz to 120 Hertz to make sure you won't see the flashing or flicker, this kind of phenomena. But for the MicroLED itself, there's lots of driving mechanisms. Some mechanism will maybe to several the on-off will be under several thousand Hertz. However, that basically we think that because for the eyes is for the just integrating the light to get the overall like moving pictures or to build our the viewing in our brains. So for you can see actually for in our environments or the light for example lighting is under 60 Hertz. So there's it's already like a switching or say with the frequencies. So maybe not a problem, but that requires the like more in the medical persons then do the further study.
Fair enough. Well, thank you so much, Falcon, for joining us. It was great having you here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. Cool. And thank you all presenters. We have a few more minutes. I'd like to open the floor up to the audience. If anyone has any other questions or has something they want to share or discuss, feel free. And then in a few minutes, we will we'll close the room and hop off. Thank you. Cool. Let's see if we have anything on the chat. Yeah, apologize again for some of the spam. Is the last session posted somewhere? TK, is that I see your question. Is that are you talking about the one from last month or this one? I have a recording. I could post that one on YouTube so you can check it out. Yeah, sure. Dan appreciates the in-depth hardware display content. So appreciate that, Falcon and Amal. So yeah, it was really a nice meetup tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Patrick, for being here. Lisa, Barry, Eric. Appreciate all your participation and questions. Hey, and Marjorie, hello. And if no one has anything to share or any further questions, we will we'll hop off in about a minute. So cool. Awesome. Thank you, Ted, for joining. Thank you. All right. Well, wishing everyone a good night. Appreciate you joining New York Augmented Reality and hope to see you again in the future. Thank you.